Okay, evening Newcastle. So, first things first. Has everyone seen The Sixth Sense?
Yeah.
Everyone's seen it? No one's not seen it? Do you know how it ends? I don't really have a plan B. Do you want to just...
So PDK once gave it away.
Yes. Okay, so The Sixth Sense. It's about a child psychologist. He gets shot at the beginning. We progress. It's the relationship about, kind of the psychologist and this boy who sees dead people. And then the twist is at the end that, okay, he's dead. Bruce Springsteen, Nebraska. Kicks off strong, Atlantic City, one of the best folk songs of all time. It's kind of a concept album about kind of blue-collar America. It was never supposed to be released. It was just a demo recorded in the boss's bedroom. And the iPhone is beautifully made. It's incredibly intuitive. There are apps for everything. And they went to the trouble of popping physics into the scrolling. So what all these have in common is that they have incredibly simple stories to go with them. Simple but very memorable. And as it happens, we tend to forget about the negative things as long as the overall experience is good. So The Sixth Sense, it's too long. It's almost 2 hours. Nebraska, it's pretty bleak. The iPhone battery is rubbish. But something about the way we remember things means that our heads act as a feedback loop. If we have a good experience, it gets better over time. And I think possibly because of this, all three of those things have their kind of evangelical fanboys. So what? I'm a user experience designer. I work mostly on web products. And I think Andy later on is going to talk about the user experience curve. I'm just going to pick the parts of the user experience that I think make for the most memorable story, the most memorable experience, once people step away from the computer. So, actually, I wonder if is the walkabout mic on? Yeah? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so it's not the karaoke bit. This is crowd participation. So, people on the left. You see me? Yeah. So, I have a friend. He's envious, stubborn, critical, impulsive, industrious, and intelligent. Would you hire him? Raise your hand. No one? Oh, good. Charitable. Thank you very much. Cool. So, next up. I have a friend. She's intelligent, industrious, impulsive, critical, stubborn, and envious. People on the right. Would you hire her? Ah, yeah, okay. That's more like it. Right, so. This is what's called primacy error. This is why your mum told you to make a good first impression. Our beliefs are formed by our initial impressions, and all evidence subsequently is governed by these initial impressions. And it's incredibly powerful. There was a study done on the 2000, 2002, and 2004 US senatorial elections. They showed students pairs of photographs of competing candidates and asked them to pick, on the basis of 1 second of FaceTime, which they thought was more competent. These students were able to predict the result of the election 70% of the time, just based on 1 second of looking at these people. And not only that, the degree of disagreement predicted the outcome, the margin of the result. So it appears that people are choosing their politicians based on probably 1 second of FaceTime. Anecdotally, a friend of mine is a fund manager, and he mentioned that most of the successful fund managers are tall. Bit of digging. Apparently, more than half the CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies are over 6 foot. And also, apparently, if you're a man, for every inch you have over average height, you earn about $4,700 more. $4,700 just for being an inch taller. This goes through to court cases. In court cases staged, good-looking candidates are half as likely to go to prison. And if they do go to prison, if they do get found guilty, they pay about half the damages as well. One of the most successful rehabilitation schemes in the States gave prisoners plastic surgery. But of course, well, the question then is, are they better because they have better self-esteem, or are they just not being convicted? And not to labour the point too much, but in the parlance of our times, the economics profession went astray because economists as a group mistook beauty-clad and impressive-looking mathematics for truth. Beauty for truth. First impressions against actuality. And back to products. This is essentially what we're talking about. If you want something to feel valuable, it needs to be finished well. But it's not quite as simple as that. There's some subtlety to it. So this study was done at Newark University, and it's called a priming experiment. They give people 5 words and ask them to sort them into a sentence. And the words are, well, in this case, they were keyed around being old. So Florida, wrinkle, sentimental. The students thought they were being timed on how quickly they could complete the task. Actually, there was another experimenter hiding outside in the corridor. And when they left the room, they were being timed for how long it took them to walk from the experimenter's room to the elevator. If you've been primed with old, you walk more slowly. As it turns out, if you're primed with aggression, you interrupt people more readily. A separate study was done where people holding cups of either hot or cold drinks were asked to rate neutral people. If you're holding a warm drink, you rate people more positively. So, you need to prime your users for what to expect from your product. Because if people get what they expect, they feel clever. We love this. We enjoy using the tool far more. There's less disconnect, there's less discord. I'm going to show you a couple of examples. This is Monocle magazine, so it's a high-end magazine website. Dan Hill's written an amazing write-up of all the design considerations. But to maintain their brand, you can't advertise with Monocle. You can submit to advertise with Monocle, and their in-house design department will then do you an advert that fits with your brand and with theirs. When Rolex advertised, they got some little gold clock faces in the top right-hand corner. And oddly enough, MySpace, I actually think is, okay, it's not a good design, but it's a great design strategy. It's neither usable nor attractive, and it's almost impossible to make an attractive website, which is a great leveler. But it reminds me of the photocopied DIY flyers from hardcore gigs in like the late 80s. And what I expect when I look at that is to meet my band, to listen to their demos, to find the rough studio edits, which is how MySpace started. But you're also not trying to just brainwash your audience. This is Rasputin. If anyone slept through history class, Rasputin, he's the mad monk. He's been called a debauched religious charlatan. He's an accused nun raper. And he helped facilitate the fall of the Romanovs, the Russian royal family. Who thinks he sounds like a stand-up guy? Yeah. Okay, so a study was done where participants were given Rasputin's biography to read. But for half of them, the experimenters had swapped out his birthday for the participants, so half of them thought they shared a birthday with Rasputin. When asked to rate Rasputin at the end of it, the ones who thought they shared his birthday were prepared to overlook his wrongdoing. Statistically, there are also too many people called Florence in Florida. There are also too many dentists called Dennis, and there are too many lawyers called Lawrence. We love things when they're familiar, essentially. And to put that in a kind of a design context, Gmail. If you remember when Gmail launched, it got a lot of stick for its developer aesthetic. It looks unfinished. The color scheme is second-hand. But then consider who they were targeting. They were targeting the technorati, the people who consider themselves to be early adopters. We expect alpha software. We expect rough edges. And that's exactly what they gave them. And I think that's one of the reasons it did quite so well. Or Obama. So he had logos for every conceivable sliver of society, like every single one. Now compare this to Rasputin's birthday. And I found this on Overheard in New York. Who'd you vote for? Obama, he's got cool logos. But ultimately, you want to disappear. People aren't there to use your software. They aren't there to use your product. They're there to get something done. And even with all the positivity in the world, how you work isn't going to keep people there. So think about the iPhone's gestural interface, for example. Now this study this is one that we all kind of know. It's about reading the label. 97% of people in the control group said they read the label on hazardous chemicals. When asked to handle dangerous chemicals, only 23% of them actually did. And that's with dangerous chemicals. What happens is people look for cues. They look for their environment in order to figure out what they're supposed to be doing. And I've got a few fairly straightforward examples. This one, BBC headers. They're graphical wayfinding cues. You don't need to learn these. They just help you to orient yourself in this kind of digital space. Got social cues. So Flickr, when you reach a decision point, they surface their social information. I could talk for ages about social proof, but I don't think I have time. And this is my favorite. This came from Boxes and Arrows. So this is about, I think, the Japanese subway. They designed unique tones for every single station in their circuit. Theory being people would start to learn subconsciously the tone associated with their station, and they would get off. They also found that people started to learn not just the tone for their station, but the one for the station before, so they knew when to get ready to get off as well. It's an invisible interface. It's people speaking through the telephone, not to the telephone. They want to get stuff done through your software and essentially walk away. And what you're hoping for is that when they talk about you in their stories, they're going to be talking about how great they were and what they achieved with your product, not your product itself. But, bless you, but, sorry, it helps to have a twist. The iPhone has the physics scrolling, which I think is absolutely brilliant. Sixth Sense has the he's already dead bit. And if you think of urban legends, kind of the most virulent of stories that we have, they always have one key feature. You know, it's the guy waking up in the bath with the ice and the pole out of his back. You know, it's that sort of thing. It's something you can really latch onto. And the hotel industry has been doing this for years. They're past masters of it. My parents went to Egypt last year, and they came back from snorkeling one day to find this in their hotel room. It's a 5-foot crocodile made out of all the towels that were in their room, and it's wearing my mum's glasses. Or on a slightly geekier note, this is from Sinatra, it's a Ruby web framework, but when you shut it down, when you shut down your server, it doesn't just shut down. Sinatra ends his set and the crowd applauds. And it doesn't make me any better at programming, but it makes me put it up on slides at conferences. Doppler have been doing this for ages as well. The more you use Doppler, the more their logo customizes to your taste. You may never notice it, and it doesn't make you a better Doppler user. But if you happen to notice it, it's a beautiful touch. And the BBC iPlayer goes up to 11. Spinal Tap reference. I can't believe they managed to make that live. Or Delicious Monster. This is turning your physical library into a digital library. You scan in books, DVDs, whatever, and it makes a digital bookshelf for you. But they've got a bunch of Easter eggs hidden in there. When you scan in Star Wars, it says, "I am your father." And when you scan in Rock Band, it sings a portion of Run to the Hills by Iron Maiden. But assuming people like you, assuming you've done your job, assuming you've started well, you've made a good first impression, people like what they get, you're hoping they're going to talk about you. You're hoping that they're going to make some kind of remark about you. And if people are going to remark about you, I kind of got to thinking whether it was possible to design to be remarked about. So, a trampoline, the product proposition is fairly complicated. The first two sentences there, Sonar helps you find expertise and information. It will show you who has the knowledge you need and how you can contact them, which to me sounds fairly simple. But whenever I explained it to friends, they'd say, "Oh, great, cool. So how do you do it?" "Oh, you know, data mining, social network analysis." And whenever it came to them explaining what I did to anyone else, they would say social networking and data mining, which is exactly the intro I got. So I thought I'd try to wrap the proposition in an anecdote, in a story form, to help for both memory and kind of oral transmission, which is the second bit. It's customized to me, so the data, you're going to have to trust me, it makes sense, which I know is a rubbish justification. But trampoline systems are talked about frequently. Well, that's good. That's who I work for. Trampoline systems are related to Argonne National Lab. They're a customer, professional indemnity insurance, all that figures. Dow Jones, potential customer, trampoline business cards, Oracle funding. Good, I know all those things. People to talk to about those things include Kaz, Rebecca, and Roderick, who are all friends of mine. So we've, well, hopefully, wrapped our proposition in something that's slightly more humane and slightly more memorable. Because if you buy that what matters is the memory of the events, then we're back to where we started. And to cut a long story short, if you want to be memorable, you want to make the right first impression, then disappear, yet still be remarkable. And that's the puzzle to fit into your user experience. And that's it. Thank you very much.